welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Ariana Jasmine, and today we're going to be reacting to Piers Morgan, Cenk, and the Rabbi. So make sure you press that subscribe button, like, comment, and share, and let's get into it.
Are you prepared to watch the IDF kill in Rafah to avenge what happened on October the 7th? You're a rabbi.
Rabbi.
Hamas are Nazis with GoPros. Young Turks is essentially the Hitler Youth.
I don't like Hamas. I don't want Hamas to win. Hamas made us murder your children, made us murder your women. No, they didn't. You did that. Anti-Semite.
You don't know any history whatsoever, Jay.
Anti-Semite. They should make that into a meme. Wait, can we run that back real quick? That was actually really funny.
You did that. Anti-Semite.
Tell me that wouldn't be the perfect meme. Someone needs to make that into a meme or a GIF or something.
This is a catastrophe.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. I'm never coming on with him again.
Come on, Cenk.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has again defied international criticism, warning an IDF offensive in Rafah is inevitable and will last for several weeks. Israel says that not invading the city of 1.5 million people, many of whom, of course, are refugees from elsewhere in Gaza, means admitting defeat to Hamas. Critics, including many of Israel's allies, fear it means many thousands more innocent lives will now be lost. To debate this, I'm joined by two guests who have memorably locked horns on Uncensored before. One of them has been on the sharp end of significant criticism lately, including from me. More on that later. But I'm joined now by the author of The Israel Warrior and Kosher Sex, Rabbi Shmuley, and the Young Turks host and creator, Cenk.
Did he just say Kosher Sex, Rabbi? You know what? I'm not here to bash on people's identifications. You want to be a Kosher Sex Rabbi? Go for it.
Cenk, let me ask you first of all, a lot of heat coming from America towards Benjamin Netanyahu, with Chuck Schumer basically implying that he should be replaced as leader in a new election as soon as possible. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it's unprecedented. I think people need to understand what a giant deal this is. The leadership of either party, Democrats or Republicans, have never, ever broken with Israel. Chuck Schumer is one.
That is true. I will give Cenk that. That is very true. There has never been a point in American history where someone in the Senate, let alone, federal government, has openly said that we need a re-election and have condemned. I mean, I don't think Schumer condemned Netanyahu, but came close to condemning him. That is a pretty wild concept, It is unprecedented. Although, given all the protests that have been happening in the past almost 6 months now, what else do you expect, One
of the biggest supporters of Israel in the whole country. For him to come out and say enough is enough, you've got to turn around, you've got to call new elections, and Netanyahu is damaging Israel is an enormous moment in American-Israeli relations. And he's not alone. Thomas Friedman, also an enormous Israeli supporter, wrote an article in the New York Times saying that Israel is now radioactive. And so these are not enemies of Israel. And the same goes for me. Allies of Israel saying, please, turn around. Look, I care deeply about the Palestinians. I'm not sure the Schumers of the world or the Bidens of the world have ever shown that. But all of us care about Israel as well. And this is catastrophic for Israel's reputation. And you do not want Israel to be alone in the world again.
I've never heard Cenk say pro-Israeli sentiment. I'm a little shocked.
21,000 women and children have been slaughtered at a minimum. Now 1.1 million Palestinians are starving as we speak now. Horrific, not just for those starving innocent human beings, but also for Israel itself.
I'm just a little confused because I don't know where this is coming from with Cenk. I think there's two possible solutions. Either one, he's trying to be very politically correct because the sex rabbi is clearly, a little extreme. Or he is trying to pander to both audiences so that more people understand where he's coming from. Or maybe he just believes in a two-state solution and the existence of Israel. I don't know. But it's a bit interesting to me because he always gave me the energy that he was completely pro-Palestine.
Rabbi Shmuley, obviously extremely passionate in your support of what Israel's been doing in response to that terror attack on October the 7th. But attacking Rafah, which is a refugee camp right now, with 1.5 million people, the vast majority of whom are completely innocent people, many hundreds of thousands of women and children. This is going to be a catastrophe if Netanyahu goes ahead with attacking Rafah, isn't it?
The catastrophe for the Palestinian people is Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. If Israel does not destroy the last 2 military battalions who are encamped in Rafah.
The enemy of the Palestinian people is Hamas. Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. It's always going to be Hamas, said the sex rabbi himself.
Without whom there cannot be more terror attacks. We'll have peace in the Middle East. It's a catastrophe for the Palestinians, whose food was stolen for 18 years before this war by the leadership, Ismail Haniyeh, who's worth $7 billion. Where was the outrage of Cenk Uygur back then? How is it that these guys...
Isn't it Cenk Uygur? Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to hold the sex rabbi. I can't say his last name right either.
are flying around in private...
Cenk Uygur. I know for a damn fact it's not pronounced as Igor. I can tell you that, bitch.
jets while the Palestinians were suffering for 18 years with no hope. This is not about caring about the Palestinians. It's about pure anti-Semitism. Let's look at March 14th, 2024, a date that will live in...
Yeah, honestly, I'm with Cenk on that reaction. I mean, the minute he said anti-Semitism, you just kind of lost everyone. I'm gonna be honest with you. Not to say that anti-Semitism doesn't exist. It's just not a good argument within this conversation, because then you can argue that everyone against the Iranian, Islamic Republic is Islamophobic, when that's just not true. People just don't like a government. Just because you don't like a government doesn't make you, phobic of the religion that is tied to the government. But that's always gonna be an argument.
An infamy in the annals of the United States Senate, where a Senate majority leader called for regime change of the only democracy in the Middle East. By the way, I want to congratulate, Vladimir Putin, a real nail biter yesterday, where he only won by 90% of the vote. Schumer did not call for regime change in Russia. He didn't call for regime change. Bashar al-Assad, Israel's next door neighbor, who killed 600,000 Arabs. He didn't call for regime change in Turkey. My friend Cenk was born in Turkey, where you have the Turkish tyrant Erdogan, who slaughters and imprisons journalists. He didn't call for regime change in Qatar.
So what does that tell you?
What does that tell you?
Okay, but Rabbi Shmuley, what does that tell you about the strength of feeling in America amongst senior politicians about what its great ally Israel is currently doing? Their initial full-scale support.
It tells me that it's a fair question, Pierce. And by the way, thank you for having me on again. It tells me that President Biden, who's a good man, but he's 81 years old, has allowed one city in the United States, Dearborn, Michigan. Michigan is the critical swing state, where you have a congresswoman named Rashida Tlaib, who is a dyed-in-the-wool anti-Semite, not anti-Israel, a Jew-hater. He has allowed one city to dictate the presidential election. This is all about presidential politics. And Chuck Schumer allowed himself to be Joe Biden's court Jew. They needed a Jew to get on the Senate floor and say that the people of Israel will no longer be a democracy.
Damn, he basically called Chuck Schumer Joe Biden's Jew lackey. Like, that's insane. Isn't that anti-Semitic in itself? Can Chuck Schumer not have his own opinions as a Jewish man? Also, this whole argument around Rashida Tlaib being anti-Semitic is also wild, because she's speaking out for her own people. Like, that argument is also tired.
So my friend Cenk, the last time we were on, I said to him, you withdrew your presidential campaign. I'm sorry that you were outpolled by even, SpongeBob SquarePants, but you went back from your presidential campaign. If you want, you could run as the chief information officer for Hamas, because you parrot their lies about Israel's being genocidal. But I will tell you one thing. How is it?
I don't know what Cenk was thinking when he ran for president. I genuinely don't. We just need to completely forget that Cenk ran for president, and we just need to keep it behind us, and we just need to move forward,
People do not care one bit that the leadership of Hamas have stolen the future of the Palestinian people for 18 years. And only when Hamas is destroyed and removed.
All right, Rabbi Shmuley.
You can make the argument that, okay, Hamas took away the livelihood of people in Gaza, but what do you have to say about the West Bank? Because the West Bank is not controlled by Hamas. They're still getting daily raids. Almost all of their olive trees got destroyed, and they're still having a lot of settlement issues in the area. So what's your argument for the West Bank? Because there is no Hamas in West Bank.
I think, look, a lot of people will share your concern about Hamas has done in those 18 years. They will also think that Netanyahu has basically admitted that he was perfectly happy with Hamas running Gaza because it separated the Palestinians from Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. But you haven't, in all that rant you've just unleashed about this, you haven't actually answered my question. And I will make it, personal to you. You're a rabbi. When you see a refugee camp, that is what it is.
Rabbi.
When you see a refugee camp with 1.5 million people, they've all been sent there and displaced there.
I know Cenk keeps doing rabbi in quotes. He's a legit rabbi, right? Because I thought he was a legit rabbi. I need to do my own research on that because I don't know.
By Israel, by the bombardment in the north, when you see this and you see Netanyahu saying we're going to go in, surely you don't think this is a good idea for Israel, that you're going to see the wholesale slaughter of innocent women and children?
It's a fair question. Again, Pierce, let me be clear. War is always terrible. Has Netanyahu made mistakes, especially when he allowed Qatar to continue to give Hamas $1 billion a year? Yes, he did make those mistakes. I'm personally friendly with Netanyahu. I was critical of that decision at the time. I remain so. But let's be clear. Without 700,000 Americans dying in the Civil War, which is atrocious, we might have had slavery, God forbid. If we didn't destroy Nazi Germany, there was starvation in Berlin. Innocent, beautiful German children. They weren't Nazis. Those who were conscripted into the Hitler Youth. And by the way, Young Turks is essentially the Hitler Youth. I don't know why Cenk uses that name still. He's going back. They were the ones who perpetrated the Armenian genocide. These German children were not responsible. Japanese children were not responsible. Japanese children were not responsible. But without this...
It's just the argument is giving whataboutism, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. It's giving a whole lot of whataboutism. It's giving, I'm not going to hold myself accountable, but I'm going to point fingers at all these other atrocities and hope that you forget what we're talking about, which is a common tactic that people use in these kinds of arguments.
Destroying Hamas, there will be war for the next 100 years.
And let me just say that you've gone once again very ad hominem with the other guest when he hadn't on you.
I'm not going ad hominem. You cannot use a genocidal name for your podcast.
Let me go to Cenk.
I'm sorry.
Cenk, your response.
Yeah, look, Piers, I wasn't supposed to come on with this guy. I was supposed to come on with a different guest. I'm never coming on with him again. All he has is ad hominem. So you ask him about 21 to 25,000 women.
Are you really that afraid of me that every time you lose
Rabbi
a debate, you say you're not going to come on?
Let him speak, please.
Come on, Cenk.
Let him speak.
Cenk, you ran for president.
Let him speak,
you won't even
please,
debate
Rabbi
people.
Shmuley.
Come on, you can't run.
Rabbi, let him speak. Cenk.
Okay, Rabbi Shmuley says he wants to murder more women and children and then calls us genocidal because we're trying to protect women and children both in Israel and in Palestine. You see me sticking up for Israel when Hamas attacks. You see me criticizing Hamas, saying they're terrible, I don't agree with them. You see me trying to protect innocent lives on both sides. Then this guy comes on. He says, kill more Palestinians. We killed, 700,000, he said, in another war. So are you going to go to 700,000 in Gaza?
The Civil War, for God's sake. I wish you knew a little bit of American...
Rabbi Shmuley, who says murder, 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 murder. That's all this rabbi... Hey, okay, I've got to say one more thing.
Jews are murderers, Jews are killers.
No, shut up.
Pierce, can I ask this man one question? The man who ran for president.
Ask anything. All you ever do is lie.
Shut up.
Why is Pierce just letting this happen? Like, why doesn't Pierce control his freaking panel?
Up and everything. Listen, stop your ad hominems. I want to ask one question, Pierce. Of
my ad hominems.
If you care about the Palestinians, I have one question. Why don't you call, Cenk, for the unconditional surrender of Hamas today, the release of the hostages, and the war will be over?
No, it won't. There's no proof that the war would be over if the hostages came back. That's an insane prediction to make, because we all know that's not how it's going to go down. If the hostages are given back, Israel is going to completely obliterate Gaza. And the only reason why they haven't is because of those hostages, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's a little controversial, but that's what I think. Because even all the ceasefire negotiations that Joe Biden was talking about, it was temporary, just so all of the hostages can be returned. So I don't really know. There's no guarantee of that.
I'm challenging you now to call for the unconditional surrender of Hamas.
And I'm not going to answer any of your stupid questions.
Will you do so or not?
No, listen, I'm not entertaining this.
Pierce,
fool
why
of a
won't he
man.
answer the question?
Okay,
Pierce,
hey, he
why
won't
won't he answer the
shut
question?
up. No, there's no talking to this guy.
Let me
Pierce,
check.
there's no talking to
Let me
this
ask
guy.
Cenk. I want to play you a clip, Cenk, of Netanyahu at the weekend. This is what he said.
Okay, can I just, before you do, Pierce?
Yeah.
Look, I hope that everybody in the audience understands that this guy isn't helping Israel at all. He's putting a very, very ugly face to Israel, and I hope that you don't make the mistake out in the audience of thinking that everyone in Israel,
I'm going to come.
or God forbid, hold on, let me finish.
Yeah.
Or that anyone else that is Jewish thinks anything like your Rabbi Shmuley does.
I don't think that Rabbi Shmuley is obviously a representation of all Jewish people around the world, but I do think that a large number of people who adhere to Israeli ideology and Zionist ideology do, to some extent or to all extent, believe in what Rabbi Shmuley is talking about. I think that's actually one of their brainwashing tactics that they use in Israel in order for a lot of the people to join or to do their, service in the IDF without feeling any kind of guilt and feeling okay about it. The whole entire existence of Israel is based on the same Zionist ideology that Rabbi Shmuley is parroting. Now, to be fair, Rabbi Shmuley is extreme, very extreme on the spectrum of, being pro-Israel, but I think Cenk is trying to really save face here, and I think it's what you see a lot of people who are either Middle Eastern, Muslim, or both, they have to do when they go into these kinds of spaces. You have to go above and beyond to prove that you're not some sort of a crazy terrorist sympathizer, right, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's insane because you'll hear people like Jared Kushner that was like, oh, we're gonna have nice waterfront properties in Gaza. Yeah, imagine if a Muslim said that about Israel. It's insane. It's insane. But people like Jared Kushner or Rabbi Shmuley can parrot crazy genocidal crap and they're fine. But then someone like Cenk comes up and they have to be very respectful, very, they have to add all of these, sub annotations like, oh, I hope everyone doesn't think this. I hope everyone doesn't think that. Like, someone like Cenk has to be super careful. Someone like Rabbi Shmuley can literally just say death to all Muslims and no one would even bat an eye. Which is so crazy to me, even when you look at these sorts of debates in these kinds of circumstances. Like, it's so obvious.
My Jewish friends are horrified by the death toll.
Do me a favor, Cenk.
Rabbi doesn't care. The rabbi doesn't care at all. He's the most immoral man I have ever met in my life.
You cannot be...
Okay,
wait a second. Wait a second.
No,
I asked a simple question.
Let Piers ask the question.
I would like to play what Netanyahu said and ask Cenk for his reaction.
When people tell us don't go into Rafah, that's like telling the Allies, listen, don't go into Berlin, leave a quarter of the Nazi army intact. That's ridiculous. If we leave a quarter of the Hamas fighting terrorist battalions in place, they'll regroup, reconquer Gaza, and in fact, perpetrate once again what they vowed to do, which is to repeat the October 7th massacre over and over and over again.
Cenk, your reaction to that?
Yeah, so this guy has been justifying the slaughter of Palestinians from day one. You have to understand something. In order for Israel to get peace, which should be the goal of its leaders and its citizens, and it is certainly of its citizens, but I don't know, definitely not its leaders at this point in time, you have to get the peace as you did with Egypt. With Egypt, there are no more bombs. You've had peace for over 40 years. And all of the doubters and all the right-wingers and all the warmongers told you, oh, Egypt will never listen. Egypt will keep trying to kill you. Egypt's going to try to kill all the Jews. But they didn't. The warmongers were lying to you, just like they're lying to you today. And why are they doing that? They're doing it because they want to remain in power. Netanyahu knows the minute that this war, and by the way, it's not just Netanyahu, it's also the leaders of Hamas. They should have taken a ceasefire earlier. They held it up on absurd grounds of not releasing the names of the hostages. So the leaders on both sides profit from this war. But the citizens of Israel are the only people who can change it. The way you get to peace is doing a peace deal. This endless war and the endless occupation is going to prevent you from having the safe haven for Jews that you have desired and deserved all of these years. For God's sake, turn around, not just for the Palestinians, but for the Israelis, so you could finally get the peace. If you do not free the Palestinians, look, I know there's PTSD from the Holocaust.
Pierce,
and
I
right
must
now,
be allowed
Israel's
to respond.
acting in a
respond in a
blind
moment,
rage. Israel's
Okay, Pierce,
acting in a blind rage at this point. But the Palestinians are not Nazis. They're the Jews. They're the same as the Jews, victimized, horribly victimized. Wake up, Israel. Wake up. Please. Don't do the same thing that was done to you.
Pierce, I must respond. These emotional tirades of Cenk Uygur, who sadly, and I'm not saying this to be ad hominem, when we were last on, I begged him, just read a Wikipedia page.
His name is Cenk Uygur, for starters.
Listen, I think Cenk is very free Palestine, but he's being extremely tapered in how he delivers that message because he knows the rabbi is going to take it and twist it and turn it in so many different ways. So I don't necessarily agree with everything he's saying. I don't think post-traumatic stress from anything really justifies what Palestinians are going through, period. But I understand the vision and why he's speaking it that way, I guess.
Camp David Accords of 1979, which led to the peace with Egypt, was all predicated on a catastrophic military defeat by the Egyptians launched by Anwar Sadat on the 6th of October 1973, Yom Kippur War, where Sadat thought he'd be victorious, and in the end, his Third Army was completely encircled. They were going to be destroyed, and then Sadat came to the conclusion, definitively, that the only way to proceed is through peace because militarism was destroyed. That's what led to peace. The same was true with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Terrible, terrible events that with Japanese imperialism. There will be no peace until Hamas is destroyed militarily, and my Palestinian brothers and sisters, who are not genocidal, but Hamas is, Hamas are Nazis with GoPros. When militarism is destroyed completely, then the Palestinians
how many
will
people?
Come
how many?
with a
all right.
real peace offer, knowing that arms do not work.
Okay, but one question.
Cenk Uygur, Cenk Uygur just said she never heard of
his name is Cenk Uygur, for starters. All right, so get his name right. My point to you, Rabbi.
I think he says the Palestinians are going to go to Israelis with no arms, but what's crazy is that the Israeli citizens themselves are armed by hundreds and thousands of numbers. Itamar Ben-Gvir himself literally encourages people to buy arms. It's a huge market in Israel. So he's painting it as if the average civilian in Gaza is armed and is ready to go, when that's fundamentally not true.
Shmuley, is this. How many more...
By the way, I apologize for that. I'm sorry, Cenk.
How many more innocent people are you prepared to watch the IDF kill in Rafah in the next few weeks to avenge what happened on October the 7th? Because it is going to be... Not one.
I don't want one innocent...
But there are going to be thousands more killed.
As much as a Jewish child. But they will... If Hamas continues in power, the Palestinians will continue to be brutalized. LGBTQ Palestinians will be castrated. Young Palestinian teenagers will be murdered by their brothers or their cousins for just having a boyfriend at 16. They will die at Hamas's hand for the next 100 years if Israel does not destroy them.
Wow, that's some insanely Islamophobic shit to say. That's wild. I'm not saying Hamas is great. Hamas is obviously a bit of an extreme group, but to just assume that all youth is going to get castrated for having a boyfriend, that's a bit of an insane take, my friend, and it's very stereotypical.
Assad killed 600,000 Arabs.
Why would you expect people in Gaza, after all this, not to want to exact bloody revenge for what is going on in their country? Because the IDF has you have spent months and months and months flatlining Gaza, and you're now about to attack a refugee camp with 1.5 million people in it. Why would you think that doing that is not actually going to present to Israel going forward a worse security threat? Because most independent analysts think it is.
Because my Palestinian brothers and sisters are as human as I, and they have the same ambitions for their children, for their future. They know that Hamas was elected to a 4-year term. They're in their 19th year term. They were supposed to share power with the Palestinian Authority. They took the Palestinian Authority officials, threw them off of rooftops and murdered them, and then took $150 billion in international aid and bought private jets for their leaders. They understand that ultimately, that's why even when you see the worst news outlets interviewing Palestinians, they say they're suffering, and they are, because of Hamas. But notice they almost never criticize Israel because they know Hamas brought this war upon them. And I challenge Cenk one more time if he wants to respond, since he says he'll never debate me again, and I wouldn't if he was either, because he doesn't know basic information. Cenk, Why do you not call right now for Hamas to surrender unconditionally? They provoked this war October 7th and release the hostages.
All right, well, let me, okay.
Will you call for that now
I think,
or not?
you know what? It's a legitimate question. Cenk, your response to that question.
Okay, yeah, but let's just be clear. I'm never going to go on with him again, not because he is a good debater. It's because he's a horrible debater. It's like talking to a ad hominem machine, just one insult after another, not attached to any reality or facts. Okay, now on Hamas. Guys, how many times do I have to say, I don't like Hamas. I don't want Hamas to win. I don't want Hamas to be in power. I want them to surrender. I want them to give all the hostages. That's so easy.
Well, that's a clear answer.
Hold on. That's a super clear answer. And do you know what created Hamas? The occupation. Because when you oppress people and you put them in an open-air prison and you take away all their rights and you make them subjugated to another set of people,
He does have a point.
then radicalism and extremism rises up. What did you think was going to rise up? Gandhi? Did you think that moderates were going to rise up when you...
Yeah, also this whole, image that America has built that, all civil, uprisings have been peaceful, and they put Martin Luther King on a pedestal. Not to say that Martin Luther King doesn't deserve to be on a pedestal. He absolutely does. But no form of resistance has ever come out of a place of peace and just pure, let's sit down and kumbaya and smoke some weed over this. Like, no, that's not how resistance works, especially a resistance that's lasted for 75 years, as violent as the one that Palestinians have gone through, including the Nakbas, including all of the displacement and the murders and the rapes and the killing and etc. that's gone on for decades. You cannot expect to just beat on someone and expect them to just stare at you the whole time. That's not how it works. When you look at a woman who was battered her whole entire life by her husband, and then one day she gets up and she shoots her husband, who do you feel sympathy for? The husband that beat her all day, every day for 60 years, or the woman that finally got up and defended herself? This idea that Palestinians do not deserve to at least even resist to these circumstances that they are forced to live under is absurd. And you know what's crazy? Americans will go above and beyond to explain to you why their Second Amendment right means so much to them, even though the leading cause of death for children is guns, even though we have a mass shooting more than one mass shooting every single day in America, even though guns is a perpetual problem that we see in how police handle guns and how children have handled guns and how guns have been used in every single part of the society, and yet people still go above and beyond to defend their Second Amendment right because they say that they have the right to defend themselves. Okay, what about the people in the Middle East that are being continuously occupied for the past 75 years? Do they not have a right to defend themselves? So all of these arguments, if you don't know the context, could make sense. But when you actually look at the conditions, the occupation, people call Gaza an open air prison. I don't even like calling it that, because what the fuck did 2 million people in Gaza do to deserve to live under an open air prison? That implies that they did something wrong. What did they do wrong? In America, we say you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But for a Palestinian child, you're guilty when you're born. You're guilty when you're in your mother's womb. You don't get a chance simply because of the geographic location that you were born in. That's it.
Put 5 million people in an open-air prison, bomb them whenever you like, and starve them whenever you like. Of course they're going to go to extremists who say revenge. And then
Pierce,
this constant
Hamas
excuse
was
that,
democratically elected in 2006.
Let me answer a
Cenk
question.
doesn't know basic facts. They were democratically elected when Israel left
Pierce,
Gaza.
what am I going to do with this guy?
The problem with Cenk is Cenk
What am I going to do with this guy?
Rabbi Shmuley,
Rabbi
Shmuley, let Cenk finish the point he was making, then you can respond.
Yeah, look, so this constant excuse that the Israeli right wing has of Hamas made me do it. Oh, if it wasn't for Hamas, I wouldn't have to kill Palestinian children. Over 12,000 children now killed by Israel. And then they go, well, Hamas made us murder your children, made us murder your women. No, they didn't. You did that. You chose to do that. IDF has now killed 25 to 30 times the number of innocent people that Hamas did. So if you think that's terrorism, what Hamas did, and I do, and I've said it now clearly 200 times, then what Israel and IDF has done is 25 times the terrorism that Hamas has done. And that's a stone cold fact. Go ahead and make any excuses, any ad hominems you like, because every time you talk, Rabbi Shmuley, you make Israel look worse, not better. Go ahead.
Rabbi Shmuley, I would say that on
Pierce,
that...
may I respond? Pierce, may I respond?
Yes, you can. I'm going to make one point, which is...
Okay, thank you.
When you
Yes, please.
appeared last time, we did get a lot of people on the Israeli side, Jewish people, who said you don't reflect their opinions about this. I mean, are you aware that you're a polarizing figure amongst your own community?
Oh, I love the fact that we Jews are a democratic society, democratic community, and democratic Israel. I love it. I love when I get criticism. I learn more from my critics than I...
What the hell is the definition of a democratic nation if you have to murder and imprison a whole entire ethnic group of people? You speak out against Israel in Israel, you go to jail. This whole entire idea that Israel is the beacon of democracy in the Middle East is such bullshit. Because if you genuinely speak out against Israel, you can't go. You're not welcome.
Do from the people that like me. It's people like Cenk who support people like Erdogan in Turkey, who's a tyrant who squashes all dissent, and there isn't one Arab democracy. I invite criticism.
Also, he keeps bringing up Erdogan as if Cenk has literally no tie to Erdogan other than the fact that he's Turkish. So that in itself is also racist, because if Cenk was a white man, he wouldn't keep bringing up Erdogan. Erdogan literally has nothing to do with this conversation. I do think Erdogan is a piece of shit, but you want to talk about Erdogan, talk about it with a white man, not Cenk, because Cenk literally has not brought up Erdogan once in this conversation.
Pierce, let's just be clear. My problem with Cenk is not personal. Cenk, if I said anything personal, please overlook my shortcomings. I will tell you something. My problem with you, Cenk, is that, respectfully, you don't know any history whatsoever. You didn't hear the Civil War. I've never debated an American who didn't know what the Civil that war 700.
Of course I know what the Civil War is. That's an absurd thing to say.
Wait a moment. It's my turn. It's my turn.
He called Senator Schumer anti-Semitic earlier, by the way. Let's note that.
When Cenk says that the reason Hamas came to power was because of the occupation, the rank ignorance. Israel withdrew in 2005. There was a United States-sponsored election in 2006 in Gaza that was open and free. The Palestinian Authority, run by Mahmoud Abbas and Yasser Arafat, had just left the scene. They ran against Hamas. There was a power-sharing agreement, and Hamas murdered their fellow Palestinians and threw them off of roofs. They came to power through a democratic election that the United States insisted upon. There is no open-air concentration camp. And what you just said, that Israel killed 12,000 children and they killed them all, Hamas uses them as human shields. They are their bulletproof vests. This is a blood libel. This is rank anti-Semitism that we have suffered for 2,000 years. And Cenk, if you're too afraid to debate me, next time say no, or at least read a Wikipedia page, for God's sake.
Cenk, what I would say, just on that point about human shields, the Israeli military said today it's taken control of the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. Troops came under fire from hospital buildings, 80 people detained, others killed, including Hamas terrorists. There seems little doubt that Hamas has used places like hospitals as a kind of collective human shield, does it?
No.
Yeah, the whole Al-Shifa hospital basement, Hamas operation got debunked literally the second week they claimed that. So, why is this still a conversation? This has been debunked multiple times by multiple different publications that did their own private investigations.
Okay, that's absurd. So let me explain why. So again, this guy, he claims he knows history, has a perverted, only one-side version of history. Earlier, he called Senator Schumer anti-Semitic. This is the most outrageous, absurd thing I've ever heard from the most senior Jewish leader in America.
I never said any such thing. That's invention.
Okay, you did. You could re-roll the tape. Okay.
Don't invent.
Okay.
Don't invent.
Okay.
I said that he was serving as
and
Biden's court Jew. I never said he was an anti-Semite.
And
Don't put words in my mouth.
Shmuley's defense of every atrocity and war crime of Israel is anti-Semite, and you ruined it, Shmuley, because there are real anti-Semites out there, especially now, including Candace Owens, who attacked you unfairly, and I actually defended you, okay? But when you use it to justify the war crimes of a government, you do more damage than you help. So please stop, okay? And that's why your own community is telling you, please stop. So you pretend like I'm some giant fan of the Turkish government or other governments, etc., But as a Turk, it's
Are
so
you?
easy for me
Do
to
you
criticize
support
the
Erdogan?
Turkish government.
Do you support
because
Erdogan?
it has
who
nothing to do with being
destroyed
Turkish.
democracy?
So, okay,
Will you
here we
condemn
go
what
again. He
Erdogan has
won't
done to the
ever
country
stop
of your birth?
interfering.
All right, I'm kind of getting tired of this. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I'm gonna skip over to where his daughter comes on because apparently it gets really funny when she comes on. So that's what we're gonna do.
Chana, who is your daughter. Chana, thank God we've got you
Hi,
to calm
everyone.
things down here. You run the
I think it's time for our
kosher
sex
sex
shop
in
tour.
you run kosher sex in Jerusalem. The allegation from Candace Owens is that your father is unholy for being associated with this business. Your response?
My response is, first of all, Candace Owens, I don't take anything she says seriously. She'll say anything for attention. She knows nothing about Judaism, and she knows nothing about sex, clearly. In Judaism, sex is the holiest act that two people can engage in, especially within the confines of marriage. And that's what we set out to do with Kosher Sex. This was a book that my dad wrote 25 years ago, and he wrote it to enhance marriage and to make it exciting and to use Jewish wisdom to keep couples connected. And I took those ideas.
I'm sorry. You took your father's ideas about sex and turned it into a sex shop. And no one thinks that's weird. No one thinks that's peculiar.
25 years later, because sex had only taken more of a hit. Like my dad said, endless porn addiction, infidelity. People have lost the ability to connect. And the worst part is, in my opinion, is the rates of loneliness. I think that people are desperately, very tragically lonely these days. And to be shamed for wanting to connect with your spouse when you're married for 20 years and want to keep it hot and want to keep it sexy, Judaism is all about that.
I don't really think that's the problem. I think the main concern is that, are all of her customers married people? Also, what the hell is a holy sex shop? Like, how do you build a sex shop under any religion? That's kind of a wild concept.
What are your biggest
Very
selling?
holy.
What are your biggest selling product lines?
Well, getting into the biggest selling product. Well, Candace actually, it's funny. She supports and defends Andrew Tate, who just got arrested again for sex trafficking. But she called these oils that I just came out with, these beautiful arousal lubricants that are made in Israel in the Holy Land, that are specifically meant to be used between couples to enhance the sexual experience, to make it more exciting, to make sex.
The holy lubricant. The holy lube. I feel so bad for laughing at this, but this is a bit wild.
Sex more pleasurable, last longer. And she called me, my dad, and these products filth. One word to millions of people, filth. So, well, I forgot the question. What did you want?
Well, no, you answered the question. That's obviously one of your biggest selling lines. But Rabbi Shmuley...
Listen, I don't like Candace Owens, but I gotta stand with Candace Owens on that one. That's a wild concept to have holy lube.
Thank you for asking the question. I don't want to get,
Rabbi Shmuley, just fine. Do you think there is something unholy about this, or is sex the ultimate example of good holiness?
I think that sex is the ultimate form of validation because it makes you feel desirable. It makes you feel that even when you don't have the accoutrements of Gucci or fancy clothing, that your very body, your essence is desirable. And the greatest, the tragedy of marriage today is the loss of erotic desire.
Why do you still have Cenk? You still have Cenk sitting there while he's talking about erotic desire? Okay. What the hell is Cenk doing here?
It's where husbands and wives become best friends and they're no longer lovers. The average American marriage has sex 7 minutes a week, I kid you not, which includes the time the husband spends begging. 7 minutes of sex is not going to be enough for you to feel that you are more than the mother of children, but you're actually still a woman. But
this is the representation of Israeli people right now. This is their best debater that they have on the market.
Notice that medieval Christianity really thought that sex was only procreative and that sex is only to have babies. And she's always talking about that. But anyone who actually wants to feel that sex is fulfilling, that your erotic needs are catered to by your wife, by your husband, so you don't have to go to Pornhub or anything like that. We are weaning people off of that, and we're saving marriages.
Final
and by
question
the way, I want
on
to say
this.
one final thing to all the
All right, I was going to ask you, how much money do you make from this?
Well, not enough. The Kosher Sex book sold very well.
Obviously you run it. Chana, how much money do you make?
So listen, this is my company.
Hannah, how much do we make on kosher sex? I got 9 kids, so I got to...
Rabbi Shmuley, you could interrupt Cenk and me. You can't interrupt your own daughter.
To help people.
Okay, I apologize.
Chana, how much money do you make?
Can I leave?
Yeah. You want me to tell you how much money I make?
Yes, from the sex stuff.
I mean, I make a living, thank God.
Well, millions, or
I make a
what
good
are we
living.
talking here?
God willing. No, we're not in the millions yet. No, we're not in the millions yet. God willing.
No, I can say clearly. I don't make anything from it. Zero, nothing.
Okay.
And Hannah is building the company.
Finally, finally, Cenk.
It needs to grow, and this is great exposure. Thank you.
Okay, Cenk, we've talked a lot of controversial stuff and had a vigorous debate as always, but can we end on a point of agreement here? Do you see anything in the kosher sex business that aligns to your world values?
Why the hell do you want Cenk to talk on this? Even the rabbi shouldn't be talking about sex. You want Cenk to fucking respond?
I'm just mainly looking forward to leaving now. So, no, I don't care about this topic at all. I don't care what he does with his dildos. I don't know what you want me to tell you.
Dildos? Where did dildos
sex
come up?
Holy and hot.
Where did dildos? Did someone say dildos?
I don't know. I don't care.
Like, you see, this is...
I don't know what you do.
Well, why did you bring it up? Wait, Cenk, I just praised you for being one of those rare people who accuse Jews of genocide.
Can I please leave?
Who aren't in the Jewish bedroom, and you bring up Jewish dildos?
Okay, we are going to.
What sex toys you sell?
Oh my God.
We are going to release Cenk now.
Why are you
Cenk,
bringing
thank you
up
very
sex?
much
You
indeed.
know, this is the thing.
No, he wants to be.
Well, I got to.
We got to leave it
there. Can I answer my question to Cenk? Can I answer the question to Cenk?
No, please stop talking.
Guys,
Cenk,
we've got to go. I'm sorry.
Let's have a beer sometime.
We've run out of time. Let's all have a beer and
let's
talk
have a beer
about
sometime. Jews are not murderers.
Holy sex,
Make
lubricants,
love,
and
not war. God
dildos.
bless
Why
you.
not? Can I thank my panel? Cenk, thank you as always very much. Chana, thank you for joining us from Jerusalem. Rabbi Shmuley, thank you very much indeed. I appreciate it.
This just made me nauseous. Is that bad? I don't know how I feel about it. People talking about sex toys over a topic where a bunch of people have died, yeah, it's a little weird to me. Thank you so much for watching my YouTube video. My name is Ariana Jasmine. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment for more videos like this, and I will see you next time.